Hashem blesses family. I'm going to explain a little bit about the Odu Otura Fun or Otura Dakoi. There's a saying that says that only Oludumare is the one that chooses when we die. There's like no one that could kill us spiritually at all, right? It's a divine law. But it teaches that a pataki between the snake and the cat, right? So in this version, because there's like several versions of this pataki, one of the versions is that they're actual siblings, they're actual brothers, children of Obatala. The snake was very rebellious, always living against what Obatala would teach him, against the tenets of the tradition, and didn't have good conduct or behavior. It was very sneaky, And the cat was very loyal and respectful. But at one point in their lives, both of them were in a bad situation. They were living in the streets. They didn't have a home. So they both went to Odumila's home to consult Ifa. And the old duo Tura Ofun popped up, Tura Dakoi. Odumila recommended them to do an ebo so that they could obtain a house of stability. The cat did the ebo, but the snake did not. He did not believe in it. Over time, the cat was able to inherit a home. However, the snake was still going through a lot. And he first decided to go to Obatala's home and ask if he could stay there so he could, be well, because he's having a tough time. Obatala thought about it, but because he was always behaving negatively and creating drama in the household, he says, you know what? I prefer peace than chaos in my home, and I cannot have you here, unfortunately. This is my taboo. I can't have chaotic people in the house. So the snake left and went to his brother, the cat, and says, hey, can you do me a favor? Could I stay in your home? The cat said no at first, because he says, that was my reading. I'm not allowed to do that. And the cat feels sorry for him because his family, the affection of family, is strong. So he decided to let him sleep there. And the snake promised that early in the morning he would leave and not bother him. But the snake overslept, and the following afternoon, people saw the snake there at the cat's home and just without question attacked the snake, and unfortunately the snake transitioned. And Obatala discovered that the cat had broken his taboo, allowing the snake to live in his house. And Obatala removed his home, and the cat was left without a home for disobedience. The moral of the story is we can help many people, but we have to be very careful to not overextend ourselves if it's in our means to do so. If we don't have the means, it's crazy. It's kind of like when we're in an airplane, right? It says that we have to place the device to breathe first in our mouth, right? Then the other person. If you cannot save yourself, you cannot save other people, And of course, I could relate with the cat, because it's very hard, the affection of family and what people are going through. Like all of us help our family members, but to a certain extent, we have to be limited, because in the Odu Osameyi teaches something similar. The tree that would produce cotton, and other birds will eat of it and not be reciprocative of what the tree will provide. And the tree was tired of producing and being taken advantage of. And the tree did a bow, and thorns start coming out of the cotton. And this is why birds were extra careful now and not abusing of it. It's kind of like strengthening your character so people don't abuse. It's kind of like the pataki of the tomato that was at one point green, very, very nice and wholesome, but people would take advantage of it. And the tomato had to become red or strong and aggressive to be respected. It's similar to the pataki in Irete Wang of Oshun, where she would produce sweet oranges, right? And people would just take it and not be showing gratitude. And she would cry, like man. And then those tears fell in the soil and began to produce acidic oranges. It's just about balance. Extend your hand as much as you can. It's like the old duo Yakun Bika, when a brother had to do a head rogation at the river to save his life, and he saw his brother that was drowning in the current. Instead of him finishing his ebo, of course, as a good brother, he tossed the ebo aside and saved his brother. But when his brother was saved, he ended up drowning and died. And when we talk about the cat and the snake in pop culture, when people get involved in other people's problems, their sorbo or that negativity could lash on that person. It could be an exchange of heads. Like one of my favorite hip hop artists is Tupac Amaru Shakur, God rest his soul. There is, as everyone knows, the situation in Vegas. There was someone who was trying to steal the death row chain for one of his friends. His friend spoke to him in the ear and said, "Hey, that guy tried to take my chain." And Tupac took it upon himself, somebody else's problem. He took it upon himself and fought him, and he ended up dying. It's kind of like the story of the snake and the cat, technically. So yeah, man. So Otura Takoi, outside of that, right? It has a different pataki saying that we have to be very careful. What we say with our mouths, because it can really curse other people. Not even jokingly, we should say that our mother's sick when she's not sick, because we have ashe in our tongues. That's what that old Dumotura the Koi teaches. This is a pataki where between a mother and son, there was a son who was a babalao, very disobedient, did not follow what her mother would suggest for his religious life, will live against the tenets of the tradition and culture, to the point where people were getting affected negatively, and the mother decided to separate himself from him, and she gave out a cry in the morning like concern, and that cry, the winds Afefe heard it, and those winds carried her voice to another town where there was another Babalao who heard that voice, and he deciphered the message, which said, son who's rebellious, disrespecting his mother, things going on. So then Afefe, the winds, as we know, works with Oya. Oya took that message and she manifested to the Babalao and says, I'm going to establish the checks and balances. I'm going to see the character of this Babalao and see if he changes his character towards his mother. So the mother, symbolically, not literally, she got sick. It was a test to the son to see if his heart would be more compassionate. He saw her situation. It was not compassionate at all. And the mother gave another cry, and it affected his entire village, where people end up getting sick. There was a lot of poverty, a lot of misery. And that's when he was concerned, like, oh my God, my village is in peril. So he went to Olofin to talk directly, and Elegwa showed up and says, you have no access to talk to Olofin directly, I do. And the reason of your fate is because of this and this and this and that. You got to change your character. You got to be more respectful to your mother. Otherwise, your entire village will be affected, in yourself, in your health, right? So he decided to change his behavior, his conduct. I just realized I don't have gas. I'm in the gas station now, but he changed his behavior and conduct, and then things were resolved. So in that old Dotura the Koi, Elek Ba changes the situation from poverty to wealth, from sicknesses to health, from disorder to order. And Mafedo Funoya, even if the mother does not curse the son when he misbehaves, because the mother loves her children, Oya, Olofin, and Elegwa will establish the karma, negative karma on that Babalao or that son or daughter that disrespects their mother. And it could affect their clients if they have a business. It could affect an ile if the Babalao has children. Everything. It's a ripple effect. You got to take care of your house first before you take care of others, basically, too. That's a philosophy of it. So yeah, in this pataki, the third pataki of Turafun talks about a Babalao who did not like to do a bo at all. He was indisciplined. He did not look to do a bows. he will get, and then someone else got him drunk. And fortunately, it dawned on him that death was going to take him out the game, like literally take him out. He was actually working on a deity called Osun, and he discovered Iku was going to take him out. So he decided to do Ebo finally. And the person in death manifested in a way where there was a person that was drunk, was going to cut him. Because he was so drunk, he ended up cutting his enemy, and his enemy ended up passing away. So in other words, there was an exchange of heads. Like, in other words, death was going to come to him via a human being that was going to kill him. But that killer ended up hurting a negative energy that was surrounding him and not himself, because he did Ebo. So this talks about the importance of Ebo. Ebo is not just to cleanse you of your sins. Ebo is not just to attract blessings. Ebo is to save your life from unpredictable things that could happen. You know, yeah, there's a lot in Otura da Koi. It talks about the Osorunga, or the famous Iyame Osoronga. You know, the wishes from Osamei that become birds at night at 12 o'clock at midnight, where they also work alongside Yewa. They work alongside Olokun, and even though Sign has some traditions in there, and that's in the old Otura da Koi. In Olukumi, we know there's a lot of fusion of different faiths and beliefs, because remember, in Cuba we have different beliefs, like the Rosicrucian order. The Rosicrucian order is mentioned even in Otura da Koi. For those that love, the Gnostic traditions, there you go. There's another science, because the Spanish people that were in Cuba were from the Rosicrucian order, and they were Freemasons. They introduced those ideologies to Ifa in Cuba, and that's why we see it in Otura da Koi. There's a lot, but just want to share my blessings. That's a little bit I have. So, Eboru Boya, Ibo Sheshe.